said this is a link. مو من هاي من اوكي. عليكم. May Allah accept your fast. Mark, we're going to be with you. Relevant subject. It is important. It is very relevant. We try, because nowadays excel medical field, in the social, in the economic. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أنبياء الله جميعا وعلى سيدهم وخاتمهم حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى Muhammad. So regarding the issue of women's, why it is important? Because our women have achieved remarkable contributions and achievements in all fields. And therefore, many of them ask, why when it comes to women, we still see them behind in some cultures? Why this is happening? My friends, yes, indeed, unfortunately, in some cultures, especially in the Eastern culture, our women suffer from expulsion, from marginalization. They are not equal to men. We have to speak about these issues. We have to really discuss them in an open and fair atmosphere. And we have to say why women have been not included, they are not on board when it comes to important decisions in the family and the society both. So she has a long way to go in the Eastern societies. We come to the Western societies. Maybe Western civilization freed women. They freed them from certain aspects of captivity. But then, at the same time, they threw them into other traps. They freed them from certain traps, but they pushed them and they threw them into other traps. And therefore maybe they received some of their rights in some Western societies. But again, they have a long way to go. They have been used in some cases as products, as sex objects in some Western and developed societies. The common view to women in some societies does not respect women for what they are, not for their personality, not for their character, not for their contribution, not for their role and their importance in the society, but therefore look. The respect goes for their look, how they look. And this is very unfortunate, that we focus on the physical appearance and we forget about the inner content. The inner content, the inner contribution, the beauty, the inner beauty of women. This is another type of injustice that that all women, not just Muslim women, have seen and experienced in the West. Now, my friends, when we speak about equality, what do we mean by equality? The equality of men and women, what does it mean? giving women and granting them their rights does not necessarily mean overriding or undermining or overlooking the principle of division of labor. We have to look at each gender and see what they are good at. Certain fields, certain spheres of life, men do good. Another spheres of life, another sectors of life, another parts of our life, women are excellent. So we have to give them what they deserve. We have to assign them a role that they do good at it. And sometimes these roles are not equal. Sometimes these roles and these responsibilities are not the same. They are different. Women can do excellent. They can excel in certain aspects. Women can do better in another aspects. And therefore, my friends, there are two important elements when it comes to men and women in the society. There are two important elements that we have to consider when we speak about women's rights or men's rights. Then we have to consider two important elements in the society. One of them, one important element and fact, and that is the psychological, biological, and physiological characters of men and women are different. They are not the same. Their physiological, biological, and psychological structure is not the same, is not exactly the same. And therefore, when these structures are not the same, definitely they're going to impact our functionality. They're going to impact the performance of men and women in the society. It is going to be different. So this is one aspect we have to consider. When we speak about equality, we have to consider that certain abilities of each gender is not equal with each other. Is not equal. They are different. Sometimes women excel in certain fields. Sometimes men excel in our field. So this is one factor. The second one, my friends, is that the norms, societal norms of societies are different too. What do I mean by that? Each society has its own ethical sets and principles and values. Each society today, each country, I would say, sometimes each country, not just the society, the country, has its own norms, its own ethics, its own customs. They are not the same. Would you tell me that the customs and the traditions in India is exactly the same as the one that are in North America? They are not. The ones that are in Africa, are they exactly the same? Are the one that in Europe? They are not the same. They are different. These norms are different. Societal norms are different. Customs are different. Ways of life are different. Ways of life are different. Even in America, in one country, we have many communities. And sometimes these communities who live under one banner in one country, under one bylaws, under one constitution, they differ in their customs. They differ in their ways of life. They are different. So we have to consider this when we speak about men and women. And we're going to emphasize, and I'm going to elaborate on this in the future, inshallah. In our future discussions, I'm going to discuss this in details, inshallah ta'ala. My friends, some people say, and I want you to bear with me, please, when it comes to this subject, it's very sensitive. Some people claim, and we have to listen to all people, to all arguments, to all discussions. So some people argue that it is Islam that is behind women's delinquency and women's backwardness, the teachings of Islam. This is their conviction. They tell you, look at the Quran, look at what your book says, look at what your prophet says, look at what your imams say. This is your religious doctrine. This is your religious teachings that always put women behind, always give a priority to men, always encourage the patriarch society, the masculine society, masculinity. It gives importance and superiority to masculinity. So this is your religion. And then they bring, sometimes they bring evidence from the Quran. Where are the evidences in the Quran? Sometimes they say, look at the Quran. I'll give you an example of that in chapter Surah Al-Imran. Surah Al-Imran, chapter number 3, verse number 14. زين للناس حب الشهوات من النساء والبنين والقناطير المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة والخيل المسومة والأنعام والحرث ذلك متاع الحياة الدنيا والله عنده حسن المآب. زين للناس. It says made to seem fair unto mankind is the love of passions, among them women, children, gold and silver, and so on and so forth. So it says your book, when your book speaks with a defamation language, demeaning language about women, and they consider them to be only an object of aura, to be only means of seduction. When your religion speaks about women to be only means of seduction, therefore your religion is demeaning women. So what is your answer? How do you answer that? Do you have an answer? Can you give an answer? When they bring one verse like this, Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 14, that considers women to be seductive objects, and then they are means of temptation in this life. So what is your answer to this? In some words of some of the mufassirin, when it comes to this, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ, to this particular verse, they say that they are means, they are described as common theme connecting fallen human beings to their ephemeral desires. So they, women, among many things, among many other things, are means for men to pursue their desires. And this is your book. My friends, bear with me. Let's discuss this verse and we conclude tonight, inshallah. When the Quran speaks about zina, we have two types of zina in this life. Two types of beautification and attraction. One of it, Quran says it's good, it's positive, it is praised, it is necessary. You need it. And therefore, if you look at different chapters of the Quran, God says, خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ عِنْدَ كُلِّ مَسْجِدٍ. Take your zina, your attraction, your beautification. Be handsome. Be presentable when you go to the mosque, to the house of worship. And this is praised. This is good. In another place, God says, قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ. Who forbade the zina, the beauty, the attraction of this life that God has given to his servants. No one has the right to forbid people from them. No one has the right to say this type of zina and attraction is banned, is negative, is not good. No one has the right to say so. So one type of zina is needed and it is necessary. And one of them are women. For the purpose of marriage, for the purpose of establishing family. How can you establish family without women? How can you raise children without women? How can you go about your work, your life, your goals without the contribution of women in the society? Can you neglect 50%, sometimes 52% of your society? Majority of the people in the world are women. So can we neglect them and marginalize them? It's not possible. God does not say this. God never said this. We have to understand what God is telling us. God is not chiding women. He's not criticizing them. He's not saying they are objects of negativity. He's not saying they are mere object of seduction and deviation. He never said this. Neither God, nor the Prophet, nor any Imam. Because God says there are zina that are necessary, mandatory, praised, positive, you need it. On the other hand, there is another type of zina that people use for their entertainment, to fulfill their own desires, which does not consider the human element of women. When sex becomes a commodity that is needed for itself, only itself and nothing else, it becomes dangerous. It becomes detrimental. It becomes negative. But when it comes as means, not goal, as means to relieve yourself, to bring happiness, to bring ease, for reproduction, for children, for family, for integration of men and women together, staying together, keeping the family stronger, then that sex, which some people consider to be filthy and bad, that sex becomes spiritual. It becomes sacred. Yes, it becomes sacred. And thus marriage in Islam is sacred. And relationship between husband and wife is sacred. Because it is not an ultimate goal. It's a means. It's a way, it's a path to reach an ultimate goal. To reach a higher goal. So this is the meaning of zina in the Quran. Quran is not putting women down. Quran is saying women and gold and these things should not be means that you turn away from God. Look what God says in Surah Al-Munafiqun. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تلهكم أموالكم ولا أولادكم عن ذكر الله. Do not let your families and your wealth to divert you from the remembrance of God. Anything that divert me, anything, is not good. Yes, when I use it in the best manner, in a reasonable manner, that gets me closer to God, then my wealth is a blessed wealth. My family is a blessed family. My job is a blessed job. My society is a blessed society. Even my entertainment is a blessed one. Because it helps me. It helps me to get closer to God. It helps me to achieve my goals in this life. So my friends, let's go back again and reiterate what I said in the beginning. Why we are having these discussions nowadays. Maybe some of you have missed the introduction, the beginning. Why do we have these things? Why do we have these subjects nowadays? I have chosen the first 10 days, the first 10 nights of the month of Ramadan to discuss women's issues. Why? Because women are important. Because sometimes we don't speak about these issues in our circles and our mosques. Sometimes we sweep them under the carpet. And therefore scores and scores and scores of our intellectual, hard-working, intelligent, smart, contributing women in our society in all fields, when they read some of the Islamic traditions, they can't believe it. They can't believe that these things are in our books. So we have to filter them. These things need filtration. When it comes to the Quran, we need to understand the Quran with open-mindedness, with a mentality of a human being, not a mentality of a patriarch person. Not the mentality of the masculinity. We need to understand Quran with a mentality of insan. Insan who believes that God created people equal, men and women equal. Women have to have their role. They have to play their role in the society. Otherwise, I am telling you, my friends, we remain backward. We remain behind for another 500 years. If we don't discuss these issues, if we don't open up, if we do not use our intelligence, if we just stick to certain hadiths, which I am going to come across them in the next few nights, inshallah, God willing, during the holy nights of Ramadan. We're going to come across these hadith. Some of them criticize women. Are they really true? Is this the vision of Islam? Is this the spirit of Islam? Is Islam based on a class society? Puts women always up? Or puts women down? Which one? Always men are up there? Always men are in charge and women have no role? We will come and we will see. We will study together, inshallah. So stay with us every night, inshallah, throughout the holy nights of Ramadan at 9 p.m. We will discuss these issues together. May Allah bless you. May Allah accept your fasts, your deeds, your a'mal during this beautiful holy month of Ramadan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.